Now it's time to give my draft grades for the AFC West. This division, overall, every team knocked their draft out of the park. The Denver Broncos, I give them an A minus. Jade Barron, even with Will Johnson, if you ignore the medicals, there was a good contingent that had Jade Barron as cornerback one. He has scheme versatility. He's good if you primarily play a lot of man, if you primarily play a lot of zone. He's good either or. He's a willing tackler. You don't find a lot of cornerbacks that want to get their hands dirty, that want to tackle. You get a lot of ankle biters. You don't get that with Jade Barron. He has no problem coming down and laying the boom on you. RJ Harvey is a human bowling ball. How he just bounces off guys and he gets downhill really fast. He probably could be the most productive rookie running back in the NFL this year. I know you got Travion Henderson, you got Ashton Genty, but behind this brick wall that the Denver Broncos have in the offensive line, he should be really good this year. Pat Bryant was my favorite pick that the Broncos made this year. Not just because he is from the 904, but I felt he was incredibly underrated. Yes, he's not a burner. I think he ran like 4.58, 4.6, something like that. But speed isn't what makes Pat Bryant great. What makes Pat Bryant really good is that he's a really physical wide receiver. He's not going to get jammed up on the line of scrimmage. He has really good releases off the line. He's a pretty good route runner for somebody of his size that has his kind of skill set, but he also can win those 50-50 balls. Along with Courtland Sutton, Pat Bryant could emerge as the Denver Broncos wide receiver too. And you did have Devon Vele, who made a good amount of plays last year alongside of a few other guys. You still do have Troy Franklin, but I believe he right now is the second most talented team on the Broncos roster. I know he hasn't taken a single NFL snap yet, but with what he did at Illinois isn't necessarily known for producing a lot of good receivers, especially with their head coach being more of an old school run first kind of guy. But for Pat Bryant to have the production that he had his years at Illinois in a run heavy scheme, it's a testament to how good of a receiver he is. With Bo Nix entering year two, throwing to Pat Bryant, don't be surprised if he ends up having like 700-800 yards and about 7-8 touchdowns in his rookie year. Then you get a punter in the 6th round. You can never go wrong getting a punter in day 3 of the draft. You get Savion Jones, who could turn into a pretty good rotational guy for you. Overall, you just got pretty good value. You didn't really reach for anybody. I had a 2nd round grade on Pat Bryant, so you get him in round 3. You got good value for him. You drafted him around later than where he should have gone. So I give the Broncos draft the A minus. I would have loved for them to go a little bit heavier on defense, though. I would have loved for them to just draft another cornerback just for a little bit more depth, but I'm not going to nitpick that. This was a really good draft. Next, I got the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm giving them a B. I love their first 2 selections, Amarion Hampton, second best running back in this class by most analysts and draft scouts out there. Trey Harris in the 2nd round. He was an absolute stud for Ole Miss. Some may argue that he was the best receiver in the SEC. Not only is he really good at coming down with those contested catches, but he gives you a little juice after the catch. Jim Harbaugh has a knack for talent. He's one of the better evaluators due to the experience he already has coaching college football the last couple of years at Michigan. And you struck gold getting Lat McConkey in the 2nd round last year. Getting Trey Harris could be you striking gold again. He's going to be playing on the outside. He should be a starter for you unless you want to go with Mike Williams. But with Mike Williams being up there in age, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Trey Harris starting day 1. And he also should have just as good as a rookie season as what we saw out of Lat McConkey. I love the selection of Kyle Kennard. Kyle Kennard was a monster for South Carolina last year. And everybody talks about how good Dylan Stewart was, but Kyle Kennard, not only is he a freak, but he has really good upside. As a pass rusher, I could see him being a consistent double-digit sack guy in this league. And I thought he would have went in the second round. Getting him in the fourth round was an absolute steal. He could be your potential replacement for Joey Bosa. But outside of their first four picks, I wasn't really a big fan of what they did after. Keandre Lambert Smith, he was incredibly underwhelming throughout his college career from Penn State to Auburn. I wasn't really that impressed with him. And, some of these other guys like Branson Taylor, more depth on the offensive line. You can move in the guard as well. RJ Mickens, more of like a special teams backup kind of guy to me. This was a B draft. The first four picks were good. After that, I wasn't really too thrilled with what the Chargers did, but this was a solid draft. Not great, not bad, just solid. You walked away with two really good players, Omarion Hampton, Trey Harris on offense, and then you get Kyle Kennard. So if you walk away with three Pro Bowl level players, that's a good draft. But outside of these three picks, man, I wasn't too ecstatic about what the Chargers did after. The Kansas City Chiefs, they nailed the draft like they always do. The Chiefs are one of the best teams in the league when it comes to drafting. Josh Simons, you do have some character concerns with him, some injury concerns as well. But if he can stay healthy, he doesn't get into anything off the field, you pretty much found your solution at either left or right tackle. Wherever you want to play him at, he can play either or. He's a swing tackle. You get Norman Lott, who was really good at Tennessee. Outside of James Pierce, he was always wrecking havoc, good against the run. He does have some upside when it comes to getting after the quarterback as well. I'm looking up his numbers right now. I don't want to get his numbers wrong, but I believe he had 5 sacks for Tennessee last year, in 2023, and 4 sacks for Tennessee in 2024. So you get somebody that possibly, I'm not going to say he'll be a Chris Jones replacement. It's hard to replace a guy on the caliber as Chris Jones, but 3-4 years from now, you look back at this Norman Lott pick and you're like, damn, why didn't he go in the first round? Because I kind of had a first round grade on him just with how good he is against the run and production that he had as a defensive tackle. Getting 4 or 5 sacks out of a defensive tackle and to get that in the second round, I think that's very great value. Remember, Mason Graham went in the 5th round. Went 5th overall. And Norman Lott was better getting after the quarterback than what Mason Graham was. Mason Graham is more of like a bona fide run stopper. Norman Lott gives you the best of both worlds. He can be a good rotational pass rusher for you, but he also can be good against the run. Then you get, I don't want to butcher this man's last name, but really good pass rusher out of Louisville, really powerful, really good utilizing his hands. He'll also be a pretty good rotational guy, but I also wouldn't be surprised if you see him get 4 or 5 sacks as a rookie. But my favorite pick that the Chiefs made was getting Jalen Royals. He was on a lot of sleeper lists, incredible route runner, very good hands, but great after the catch. I don't know how they're going to utilize him in this offense with them having Rasheed Rice returning from injury. You got Hollywood, Marquise Brown, but I'm pretty sure Andy Reid will find a way to scheme this man into the offense, and he's too good not to get involved in this offense. He will be really good during training camp, and he's going to find a way to get on the field this year. He's just way too good. Normally, when you have a receiver that's as polished as a route runner as what Jalen Royals is, they normally end up seeing the field immediately. One of the more important traits when it comes to evaluating wide receivers for me is looking for guys that can create a lot of separation on their routes. That's what Jalen Royals can do. You can play him outside. You can play him in the slot. However you want to play him, he's going to be a really good receiver for Kansas City. And then you got Brashard Smith in the 7th round. I don't really talk too much about 7th or 6th round selections, but Brashard Smith is really intriguing. He was a running back for SMU, but he spent a lot of time at receiver before he ended up changing positions. Really shifty, has a lot of acceleration. Once he gets into the open field, a lot of guys are going to have a hard time bringing them down from behind. He is a little bit raw as a running back, but Andy Reid, I'm guessing that he could see him being utilized more in the pass game, trying to create mismatches for safeties and linebackers. So essentially, you're getting a running back that more so is a wide receiver for when he's on the field, which is why I think this was a pretty good pick for Kansas City to get him in the 7th round. I see him making the roster and Andy Reid having some fun with him in terms of how he's going to try to get him involved in this offense when it comes to passing situations. Of course, you're not going to have him on the field for a lot of plays. He's not an every down back. He's not going to give you anything when it comes to pass blocking. So he'll kind of be limited in that regard. But overall, this was a great drive. Kansas City didn't really have a lot of picks, but they got the most out of every single pick that they had available to them this year. And lastly, we got the Las Vegas Raiders to round out the rest of the AFC West. This was the best draft class in this division and one of the 5 best draft classes overall. Of course, we know how good Ashton Jeanty was at Boise State, the second best season that we've seen from a running back in college football history, only second to Barry Sanders. Yes, he did play in the Mountain West, but Boise State has normally produced pretty good running backs from Alexander Madison to Doug Martin. Ashton Jeanty is the best of that trio. He has great vision, great contact balance. He's a good receiver as well. And he balled out against Oregon. He also played well against Penn State. Then you get Jack Beck in round 2, who should immediately be a plug-and-play starter for you in this offense. Great hands, great route runner. And then after these first 2 picks, you just continue to just nail guys who should be immediate contributors for you. Darian Porter, I don't know too much about him, but from reading a few scouting reports, he could be an instant impact guy for the Raiders with the big hole that they have to fill at corner, especially with them just recently releasing Jack Jones. You get 2 really good interior offensive linemen, Charles Grant, Caleb Rogers. They could end up competing for playing time to start the year. You get Dante Thornton. Not only does he have great size, but he's one of the fastest receivers in this draft class. So even though the Raiders have a new regime, they still paid homage to the late and great Al Davis. You know how he loves these speedster wide receivers. And just overall, they just continue to get good value. Cam Miller in the 6th round. I'm not going to call it a reach. It more so was a surprise to me because I thought he more so would have been a UDFA due to how under the radar he was. But I had him ranked as my 10th best quarterback during this draft cycle. Really good athlete. If you sit him behind Geno Smith for 2 seasons and that Chip Kelly scheme with how athletic he is, he could turn into a productive starter in this league. This was one of the weaker draft classes that we've seen when it came to quarterbacks. So a guy like Cam Miller, who has a pretty good arm, really good athlete, I wouldn't sleep on him. And the Raiders probably could find a way to get him involved in this offense this year on some design quarterback runs. Chip Kelly could probably cook up a few packages for him as well. The Raiders just got so many potential starters in this draft. It's insane. I don't think no team walked out of the draft with more starters than what the Raiders did. You have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 guys that are possibly going to start for the Raiders, and probably as soon as this year. You won't have to wait too long to see most of these guys on the field. So these are my draft grades for the AFC West.